Chair and members, thank you very much for hearing the bill. Um, Let me start by saying I am not a fan of TIFs, just not. However, we do need to remember that the legislature has a toolbox that is filled with very few tools that essentially are designed to help struggling municipalities, struggling counties. Um, we have a vested interest, TPT wise, when it comes to TPT tax collection. We have a vested interest in seeing to it that inner city development blight is replaced with inner city development. So to that end, I'd like to give you just a really brief history of Rio Nuevo, which is the TIF that we're talking about today. 1999 to 2009, it was run by the city of Tucson, roughly $250 million, evaporated, literally evaporated. It went into studies and architectural plans and everything that didn't do something. At that point, and I believe it was around 2009, the state, through President Biggs and the speaker at the time, which I can't remember that far back, and the governor all stepped in and said, okay, enough is enough. The taxpayer money really is important. We want to see something productive done. A private sector board was appointed to replace the previous sector. And by the way, there are a few individuals that may have been part of the first. Everything's been audited. Now, whether or not there's a complaint that somebody wasn't prosecuted for the lost money, I believe they looked at it and said, okay, it's not illegal to be a really poor bookkeeper, to be a really poor business person, to be a really poor fill in the blank. It's not illegal. I get that. Moving forward, and I'd just like to use the windshield versus rearview mirror example, word picture for you. There's a reason that the windshield is as big as it is, because we want to look forward, and the rearview mirror really is designed for limited view. And frankly, that's where we're at. Since the private board took over Rio Nuevo, we've now seen, with a very small amount of seed money, $30 million in business terms, that's not a lot. But that has been sufficient to draw in something on the order of $300 million in private capital. We now have private equity in those projects. And I think the thing that's most important is to remember that that $30 million stayed in the community where it was collected, was poured back into, and there are going to be a number of people who are going to speak probably for and against the bill. And I'll let them speak to how that money was distributed. But I will tell you, 5 years ago, you couldn't pay me enough to go to downtown Tucson. I'd go to U of A, but that's really about all that interested me. Fast forward to today, one of the biggest signs of the health of a community, especially on the development piece, is when you see large construction cranes. Well, there are large construction cranes in downtown Tucson. And what I find fascinating is that some of the hotel brands that have decided to move to Tucson, I never would have imagined that they would have come. Now, there are going to be detractors who say, well, they gave land to Caterpillar and they did this, and it's okay. At the end of the day, it is not the city of Tucson. It is not Pima County, which, by the way, I think really I've heard it said that there is a big difference between losses and lessons. Yeah, we lost $250 million, but there was a lesson in that. Government's great, let me phrase that. Government is set up to administer. Private parties are set up to operate. And I think that that's an important distinction to make, that when just enough capital is made available to draw in private capital and private equity, we begin to see those things happen in a community that wouldn't happen otherwise. Now, when I say they wouldn't happen otherwise, I've lived in Tucson in the Tucson metro area since 1999. We have proof, 99 to 2009. Nothing happened. However, when the right structure was put around it, when the right focus was on where the money should be spent, what the money should be doing, we suddenly see a metamorphosis. And I'll close by saying the other measure, I think, of a municipality in its downtown area is when you start to see real estate development on the residential side. The two largest real estate firms in southern Arizona, Long Realty and Tierra Antigua, have now established offices in downtown Tucson to sell homes in downtown Tucson. That is remarkable.
0 present and 0 absent. You given HCR 2029 a due pass.
Madam Chair, members, at least the 6 of you, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Booyah. All right, and with that, everybody, Ways and Means is adjourned.